The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston, one of my favorite cities in the world. I spent 15 years in Houston, Texas, loving it. Was partners with Earl Campbell, the great Earl Campbell. We had a business venture together. Hey, today, for the next 50 minutes, if you've got a tax problem, if you know of a friend or a family member who has a tax problem, you do not want to miss the next 50 minutes of our show. This show is probably one of my favorite shows to do. We have been doing the show together for over 12 years. And I know just from your emails how hard it is when you have the IRS after you. But what's so great about this show, if you've got the IRS after you are going to feel so much better because we have Taxation Solutions Inc. You hear all these commercials on TV, these big companies with celebrities. Well, this is a little big company. They have been doing this for so long. And what's so important about this is I see where so many of these companies who make all these big promises that they can't fulfill aren't even in business anymore. But when you do business right, like Barry Fowler does, you're going to be around for a long time. And we have Barry with us. Good morning, Barry.
Hey, good morning.
God, your show is so easy to do. One of the things that makes it easy is our company, Ask the Experts, starts promoting the show a week out, and then W4CY promotes it a couple days out. So we start getting letters from people who either can't call in, don't have the time to call in, but have questions. And we spend a lot of the show answering your questions, so we appreciate it. Barry, you have created. Listen, Barry is so humble. He probably hates it when I do this, but you have created one of the greatest companies when it comes to tax resolution. A company that people can trust, know that you're going to give them the right information. Might not be what they want to hear, but at least it's going to be the truth. And you're going to know that if you try to reach them, you're going to be able to reach them. Barry, tell us about Taxation Solutions.
This is my baby. I mean, this is providing relief to people, taxpayers who have found themselves in trouble with the IRS, either from not filing, maybe filing and owing a bunch of money, maybe getting the wrong kind of tax advice, somewhere along the road, and helping them get out from under the heavy hammer of the IRS. And, we created this company to provide this kind of relief and take the stress off of people and give them the opportunity to actually get their life back, to be able to, live their life without the threat of losing everything they have, from bank levies, wage garnishments, even I've seen it as bad as taking their home or shutting their business down. And, be able to get them that kind of relief, makes them happy. It makes us happy. It is an accomplishment because dealing with the IRS sometimes has got to be the biggest pain in the rear end you could have anywhere, and especially as an individual taxpayer. And when we take on that heavy weight and take it off their shoulders so they can kind of relax and get some sleep, including their spouse. I mean, that's part of the beautiful thing about hiring us is we give comfort basically to the family.
Barry, one of the things I've learned from you is there's a lot of people who say, well, I can handle it myself. I can work with them. I'm a good negotiator. I'm better than them. People don't realize when they talk to the IRS themselves, they can be digging themselves a deeper hole and not even realizing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like, and I hate to use this analogy, and I don't think I've used it before, but it's kind of like going to divorce. You got a husband and a wife that are separated and getting divorced, and they have a vested interest in just completely fighting against each other. Well, fighting the IRS, you have that vested interest in your money. You think you can't afford it. You can't think that the IRS is wrong, and you're going to argue with them, and you get into that terrible tone, and you set the stage completely wrong, or you start giving too much information because they try to act like your friend, and that's not what they're there for. They're there to take everything that you have to pay the IRS in any way, shape, or form. So, instead of fighting, you hire a mediator and somebody that goes in between you and the IRS, or between a husband and a wife going through divorce. You have that mediator that kind of settles things down and gets you the best possible deal that you can. Now, we know how to negotiate with the IRS. We know every in and out and everything about the Internal Revenue Manual to make things work for you to get you the best deal possible, regardless of how much the IRS wants to try to take from you, regardless of how much the IRS wants per month. If we can prove that you qualify for any of the individual programs that the IRS has to settle for less, that is what we're going to do. And even if you got to pay, we try to put you on the lowest possible payment plan that you can possibly be on with the IRS. And that's what we work towards. And getting away from having to be confrontational because you have such a vested interest that you're going to argue, and it's going to disrupt your whole day, if not week, if not month, if not year. Hey, you call us at 877-996-6477, and we try to give you that kind of relief and to be able to get you to relax, to be able to get your life back.
Barry, this is you do several shows with us. You do a national show and you do a Houston show. Plus, you have your own show, which we're going to get into in a minute. But even if you have a relative that's in a different state than Texas, Barry can help no matter what state you're in. Taxation Solutions can help you. So if you let's say your dad is in trouble with the IRS and your dad lives in Seattle, Washington, the best gift that you can give to them is to turn them on to Taxation Solutions, because it's just like I can't tell you how important it is not to try to handle this yourself. Let the professionals like Taxation Solutions. Now, this show is about educating you, which we're going to do today. There's a few things that is really stands out in my mind that Taxation Solutions has done that shows you they are beyond all the other companies. Barry, you started working with truckers and you actually have the most, I guess, inexpensive program. for truckers. Tell them about your program.
They don't know. I mean, first thing about, having inexpensive programs, we don't talk about inexpensive programs, to people. Yeah, we have developed actually probably the best program for truckers across the country for helping them with their bookkeeping and their taxes. And we kind of fell into it, weren't really meaning to do it because we were helping so many truckers with their tax problems, and they got poor advice or no advice, didn't file. And you know how things work in our industry. The first year you file and you owe $10,000 or $20,000, and you go, oh, I can't afford to do this, so I don't file the tax return. And then the next year you owe even more. And it's just a big snowball effect with all the interest and penalties that the IRS adds to it. Well, we found a way, and we helped truckers get out from underneath this debt. And then they came to us and asked us, hey, can you do our bookkeeping? Can you do our taxes?
Yes.
Can you give us money? Hey, we're in the tax resolution business, tax relief business, and I admire what truckers do for everybody in this country. I mean, you wouldn't have anything in the stores if it weren't for the truckers transporting these goods across the country. Fuel at the gas stations, to propane, to meats, you name it, they transport it. And so we decided, hey, we're going to find a program. So we just have developed a company called truckertaxtools.com. Has low cost bookkeeping, starts at $25 a week.
That's
the whole
amazing.
plan is to make it as easy as possible for truckers to get their bookkeeping and then get their taxes done and minimize the tax, maximize their profit, maximize how much money they're able to keep, moving money from where they're spending it with after-tax dollars to dollars that they're spending pre-tax. So it saves them money, it saves them on taxes. And that was the whole goal. So we did this company, again, it's truckertaxtools.com. You can go over there, go to our contact page. We'll call you. We'll get you onto one of our low-cost bookkeeping plans that are out there. Or maybe you have multiple trucks and you want a bigger plan that's more comprehensive. We've got that too. We've developed the plans to make it easy to help you, coach you, and save you money.
There's another vehicle you came out with. We're going to give Meg credit for this, your playbook. I think that is amazing. When you first told me about this, Barry, I could not believe it is amazing. You're willing to give this information out to people.
Absolutely. And maybe I should stop giving her credit.
Yeah, you try that.
I think I'm gonna say, hey, no more credit to her because she's getting too many good reviews and stuff on this. But yes, we wrote the IRS playbook. If you go to taxationsolutions.net, we will refer you to where we've got this information absolutely free for you. 3 simple, easy steps to solving your tax problems. The steps we follow. Now, I say it's simple and easy. It does get complicated, but if you're possibly looking to do this yourself, by all means, contact us. We'll send you that playbook. It's right there for you to go through and look at, decide what you want to do. And maybe it's something you want to do on your own, but maybe you really need the help and the assistance, and we'll talk you through it. We'll give you a free consultation, the whole works on it.
Barry, I think another thing that's so amazing about your company, you've got you guys are busy all the time. And you take your time out to do your show on Monday. And you take your time to do the Ask the Expert show. I mean, you take 50 minutes out of your schedule twice a month for our show, and then you do your own show. Tell people, well, first of all, what is your show called?
It's called Tax Talk for You. Now, don't get it really confused here, because You can go to taxtalkforyou.com. Yesterday we did this show, and I had to do it from home because I was doing some farming, ranching, and taking some chickens to the processor for meat birds. And I had dogs barking in the background, and I actually had more comments about dogs barking than I had about some of the tax stuff. I even actually had a person, this is funny. I had a person that actually came on and said, "Hey, I don't normally listen to this show, but a friend told me you had dogs. So I turned it on. It's cool to hear your stories about your dogs, but I also learned a lot about taxes." Hey, what better way to get listeners than to have your dogs barking in the background? I almost stayed home today to do this show just so we could have the dogs in the background.
Oh, that's funny.
But you couldn't time it any better. I mean, I think the whole last part of the show, I had a dog whining or wanting to go out or something.
You know, one of the great things about your show and about our show we do is we're on about 75 platforms, and people, I really notice a lot of it from iHeart and Spotify that people have gone back to listen to the shows that you've done. All of your shows with us and the shows that you do on Monday, people can literally go on iHeart in their library, who has the biggest library in the world, or Spotify, who's got a large library, and listen to these shows. The people, I get so many, I don't know if you get these letters, but hey, I accidentally found your show and I started to listen to it for a few minutes and I ended up staying on the show because a friend of mine's having tax problems. And it's amazing that, Barry, I want to thank you for taking the time every month to educate people. I mean, most of you are being sold or shove something down your throat on TV commercials, but your shows are really so educational and people really appreciate them, and mainly myself.
Well, and thank you. You know, we try to get information out. Yesterday's show, besides the dogs, was all about IRS penalties and evading penalties and the types of penalties and how you avoid having these penalties against you. So, you know, we get to talk a lot about penalties. One of my favorite shows out there, and this goes back to doing it yourself, is we did one on tax solutions 101, and we followed it up with tax solutions 201, purely talking about it. How do you go about doing tax relief? And I don't know exactly how many people have downloaded that. The last time I talked to our company that handles it, I think we were close to 60 to 80,000 people have
I believe
downloaded
it.
those two shows. And so it's been great for us. Now, you know, us being that we want to stay in business, we want to help people, we want to charge you to do this because we
Of
got
course.
employees to pay. But sometimes people just can't afford the service. Sometimes people just really want to get out there and do it themselves. And we really want, if that's what you're going to do, get out there and do it right. Don't screw it up, make it worse, or make it harder for somebody like us to come in and solve that problem because you messed up. You should have hired us in the first place. But, you know, we know how people are. I know how I am. You know, I like to try to repair things out on the ranch, even though my wife knows that she's going to be making that next phone call and it's going to cost us more after I finish playing. And I call some of the stuff I do at the ranch playing because I'm just trying to fix it out. I've got a water problem and I've been on it for 2 weeks trying to fix the water problem. Guess what? My wife called somebody out. It took them a little longer to fix the problem than it would have the first time, but they got it done in a lot less time than it took me to discover that I couldn't do it or I couldn't find it. So, you know, that sometimes is the difference. Now we're dealing with the IRS here, and sometimes we're putting things in the IRS hands, like we've got a client, we just applied for non-collectible status. Supposedly, we're supposed to hear from the manager in 2 weeks. Well, now we're on 4 weeks. So sometimes we work on IRS time, and their 2 weeks does not actually transpire into 14 days. I think their 2 weeks is 2 weeks of business days, which now is close to a month, and it could be 2 months. So who knows what their timing is. Oh, don't forget to throw the vacations that the IRS takes all the time too.
Yes.
Because that's not included in their calculation of 2 weeks. When you call and they're out for this holiday, plus they took a vacation days, and the manager you need to talk to is on vacation, but won't be back for about 3 weeks. How much vacation time do you need? So it is what it is. We all deal with it.
Barry, we got a couple weeks ago from a gentleman in Sugar Land, that's in the Houston area, and he said, I would like you to talk more on business. And we should, because it's a big portion of your business. But I was thinking about that, and if you're a business owner, and Barry, we've talked about this so many times, and you try to work it out yourself, and just the amount of time that you have to spend on the phone. Sometimes you could be on hold for 2 hours with them. Why would you want to put yourself through that?
Why not? Everybody loves the music the IRS has.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
It's sometimes, this is what it reminds me of. My wife was watching a show, and I think it was Friends. And Phoebe was on the phone on hold for like 2 days with some company. And that's what it reminded me of. Like sitting there and being on hold, it seems like forever. And then some of the worst cases, you're sitting on hold and you may be on hold for a couple hours, and all of a sudden the system just hangs up.
Yes.
So do I have to start again? Am I back in the queue? Am I back where I was? No, you started all over. And then you call back and it says, the phones are too busy to put you in the queue. You got to try the next day. And you do the same thing. Or you're in the middle of talking to an IRS agent there, and for whatever reason, the phone hangs up. They hung up, just got disconnected. You were on your cell phone and you walked out of service range in the middle of working on your tax problem with them, and you've got to start all over, and you don't get the same agent again. So, coming to Taxation Solutions and getting this to where we work for you, those hold times become our problem. Now, we have priority lines for practitioners out here, and I've got a priority line that I can call in, and I can sometimes jump to the front and get things moving. And that's one of the beautiful things of hiring Taxation Solutions, is that we can do things sometimes nobody else can do. Now, the IRS isn't going to tell you that. Nobody else is going to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you, we're able to get through and do the things that we need to do for our clients. Now, I'll be honest, you don't give me information, you don't participate, we're not getting very far, because we can't make things up. You've got to actually help us and provide the information. And that's where we help you put it in the right light, put it in the right way, find ways to continue to reduce what you're going to be paying to the IRS in every way, shape, or form. Now, how does that start? You both know, everybody knows, I can't do anything unless you take that first initiative and call us for this free consultation at 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Now, trust me, I make no outbound phone calls unless you have called us. You get that right off the top. We make no outbound phone calls unless you have called us first or reached out through our contact page at taxationsolutions.net. Again, that's taxationsolutions.net. Now, why do I say this? Have you had one of those marketing phone calls that said, "Hey, you owe the IRS money"? I have.
I get them all the time.
And I think it's funny. Now, the people that I'm talking to don't think I'm funny because
Yes.
I'll be like, "Oh my God, I owe money? How much?" So you got to watch out. There's a lot of scammers that are out there. There are companies that'll pretend like they are tax relief businesses and they're really just a marketing company doing robocalls. So if you owe the IRS money, don't wait for a robocall to call you. Don't wait for the IRS to call you because they're not going to. They're going to send you all these wonderful nasty grams. Pick up the phone, call us at Taxation Solutions, get the free consultation, whether you want to use us or not. Let's talk about what the tax problem is. Let's help you talk about what possible solutions you could have, and then decide where you go from there. And maybe you're looking for just competitive and to hear what we do versus competitors do. We're fine with that. We just want to help you. We want to give you the information. But you got to call us at 877-996-6477 anywhere in the country. Free consultation, free phone call.
Barry, it reminds me, I had a lady who wrote me one time about your show, and she said, I tell you what, this show saved my life because I was getting emails from people saying they were with the IRS. And I heard Barry come on and say, the IRS doesn't email you. And I was so scared getting these emails. So you never know who's listening, what your words are going to mean to somebody out there. But she was so grateful for your show. She was really scared and didn't know what to do.
Pick up the phone and call us. I mean, there is a reason that people are scared of the IRS. You know, they don't have the reputation for no reason at all. And if you ignore them, you're going to get levied at some point. Everybody does when they ignore them. You may get a wage garnishment if you've really ignored them. I've seen people that in business, maybe a consultant, working for themselves. This includes truckers. This includes many small businessmen that just couldn't afford to pay their taxes, or business women that couldn't afford to pay their taxes, to where they don't just levy what's in your bank account. They now go and levy the people you're doing work for. They're going to give you a 1099.
Wow.
So can you imagine 100% of the money that you just earned got levied as a consultant working for, doing some work, and now you have nothing? I mean, it's not like a wage garnishment where they leave you at least a little bit to try to live on. It is a complete levy until all the tax is paid. I've seen truckers out there, they're working for leased on with a trucking company, and because they're 1099, there is no allowance to pay you some of that money. They have to send it all to the IRS. And that's just crazy to me. But that means you've really ignored what the IRS has been telling you. And you just can't do that.
One of the other things this gentleman from Sugarland said, Barry, he said, I wish you would start talking about business as to the IRS. But he also said he loves your stories. And we get so many people writing us say how much they love stories, the examples you give. So let's talk about businesses. What are the problems you mostly see with businesses when they get in trouble with the IRS?
Well, we got really two big ones. And the first one is payroll taxes and not paying payroll taxes. In the economy we've had over the last 4 years and everything. It's inflation and costs have continued to go up. And one of the easiest places to not pay is payroll taxes. I mean, you've got to pay your employees, you got to pay your suppliers, you've got to pay for the things that keep your business going, but then comes the payroll tax. So we skipped the payroll tax payments. Had a gentleman call us the other day, decided he was going to do it himself in dealing with payroll taxes. He called us back. So his first phone call was about a month ago, and I warned him he was going to have trust fund penalties, so he needed to take care of those. He's decided, no, I'm going to do this myself. He called the IRS. The IRS demanded a huge payment, about $9,000. The way he told me was he went ahead and paid it. They applied it to the payroll tax, but they didn't apply it to the trust fund side of the payroll tax. So he also got hit with trust fund penalties on the personal side. Worse than that, one of his managers that works for him that signs on the checking account and does checks just to suppliers, he got hit with trust fund penalties.
Oh my God.
Because he was a signer on the checking account. And he calls me up and goes, now what do I do? Can you explain it to me so I can do this myself? Haven't you gotten in enough trouble doing it yourself? And you got your manager in trouble as well? Well, I thought I paid part of these taxes off and it would save me and help me. They promised me they weren't going to levy my bank account. Well, they didn't levy your bank account. They just hit you with trust fund penalties, my friend. Now they want to collect on both sides and from your manager. So you try to sell that one to your manager and how happy that makes him because you're not managing and doing things. So you kind of really, you have payroll tax problems. Make sure that you have somebody working and helping you on your side to avoid getting the trust fund penalties and put a plan in place to not have these penalties anymore and get these taxes paid down and make sure you're staying current. Now, the other big problem that we have seen lately, people get out and want to start their own businesses. Hey, great. We love it. More power to you. They don't read their employer identification letter, the letter that the IRS sends you that says, here's your employer identification number, EIN, and here's what you need to do. So you went out and got XYZ Consulting Inc. and you applied for an EIN, and that letter came back and says you have to file on 11/20, and you put down that you're going to have employees at some point, and you got to start filing your 941s. You're thinking, I didn't start doing anything in business for 6 months. I just got the company set up and getting things rolling. You don't file that first year's 11/20. You don't file 940s and 941s, W-2s or anything else because you didn't have payroll, so you don't think you have to do it. If you read that letter, you have to file all these forms because of how you filed for your employer identification number. Now, understand it was a do-it-yourself project. Read the letters. Read what it's telling you. You were meaning to be an S Corp. Did you file the 2553 to get S Corp status election? No, you didn't because you didn't read the letter. You just thought you were an S Corp. Or, hey, now maybe you filed for an S Corp. You did everything supposedly right. You still didn't file your 940s, 941s. You haven't really started in business yet. You didn't file your 1120S. Guess what? The IRS charges you penalties every month that you are late on these filings. Then with payroll, they start insinuating and assuming how much you did pay in payroll, and they start hitting you with those payroll taxes as well. See, sometimes being in business without a consultant, without somebody's help, without an enrolled agent on your side, you get yourself in bigger trouble, and we help you fight through this and get things corrected. We had you like my stories, we had a client that was in the trucking business who came to us and started filing tax returns with us. Well, they brought us their past couple years' returns. So we started doing the returns working from the same way they were doing them. And they had a tax problem. And I went, hey, we have a problem with an employer identification number. So can you provide us the EIN letter? They provided us the EIN letter from 6 years ago. And they were actually supposed to have been set up as an 1120S S Corp and should have been filing S Corp returns all along. So that was one entity we had to go in and fix. The other one was filed as a partnership, as an LLC, multi-member, and should have had partnership returns. Now we were able to go back and file the corrected return, do the correct returns for them, save them a bunch of money in payroll taxes and other stuff that they had to pay, self-employment taxes, and amend all their personal returns and get them out from underneath the hot water. At the end of the day, we were able to save them most of their interest and penalties that they had assessed on all this stuff, not because of what they did, but because their other preparer who had all the information didn't do or refused to do or didn't read, even though our client had no knowledge of any of this stuff that had to be done because they didn't read their employer identification number. These are the problems that you have when you don't have somebody that's going to be on your side helping you through in your business.
Barry, I got to tell you, I'm so amazed. Probably in the last 2 or 3 months, I am reading so many stories about celebrities that owe so much in taxes. I think about this one of these New York housewife, New Jersey. Her name is Judice, and she went to prison because she didn't pay her taxes. And then she got out of prison, and same thing. You'd think that people who've got money would have a CPA firm, but a lot of people they try to do all this themselves, and then they think it's going to go away. I know you've seen this before, but it just amazes me. A lot of these celebrities who are way behind on their taxes, and I guess they don't think anything's going to happen to them.
Well, they thought wrong.
Yeah.
Or they had bad consultants, or somebody took their money, or somebody just tried to take deductions they shouldn't have had. It's really funny. I speak at a seminar called Truck to Success, and it's put on by OOIDA, Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association, every year in October, and I'm one of their guest speakers there. And we talk about taxes and everything else. And I also give a speech about the state of taxes. And one of the things that you always look at out there is that if you watch politics at all, you see Democrats are always interested in raising taxes on the rich and giving money to what they consider the poor. And then their definition of rich is anybody that makes money. So you're surprised it doesn't just say, how much did you make, send it in. And then you listen to the non-politicians that say, hey, we need more taxes. We should tax the rich. We should do this. And there are a lot of actors and other people out there. And then the next thing you see is they've been arrested. They've been in jail. Right. They haven't paid their taxes. You can't have it both ways. If you're rich and you want people to pay more taxes, the IRS and the government doesn't stop you from just writing a check to the U.S. government. If you've got $1 trillion, write a check, send it in. We, the United States taxpayers, would love to see you pay the debt down on your own. Go for it. But hey, that can happen. A lot of times those guys have committed fraud. And they've avoided everything else and owe millions and millions of dollars that are out there. I've never had a client go to jail. I've had a client that actually had plenty of money, actually probably should have went to jail because he committed fraud, didn't disclose everything to us, so we couldn't disclose it to the IRS. And of course, the IRS and the powers that be there were able to find their millions of dollars worth of property they owned. You can imagine that. We were actually able to pull everything back from the IRS and say, hey, guy just made a mistake. He inherited the property, which he did, but it was all in his name. He should have disclosed it. And we were able to save him from that problem and get him into a payment plan so that he could, solve his debt with the IRS. But if you avoid it, hey, Stalag 13 is still there for you somewhere.
No, Barry, I guess it's been about maybe 3 or 4 years now. We've done so many shows together, but I remember the show when you said, we are a non-judgment zone. And I was thinking about that. And since then, we have received so many letters from people that are embarrassed of the situation they're in. And instead of doing something about it, like calling Taxation Solutions, they don't do anything because they're too afraid and too embarrassed. And now that I think back on it, about that no judgment zone, that is so important that people understand that. You're not going to judge anybody.
Not at all. We've heard every reason under the sun for tax problems. Hey, just because you have a tax problem, I know you don't want to go to Thanksgiving dinner or spend the 4th of July shooting fireworks and going, hey, Dad, guess what? I owe the IRS $100,000. Your dad's going to look at you like, are you insane?
Yeah.
You know what the IRS can do? No, we're not that way. It's going to be, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to work on. I don't care if the amount is $10,000, $15,000, $100,000, $1 million. I had a client come to me and owed $1.5 million. I have a client we've been working with today that's over $2.8 million. We work with the amounts, as low as $10,000. Under that, we'll give you some advice and tell you some of the things you need to do. Or maybe, we do a transcript analysis for you and we find a way to solve the problem out there. The solutions are different. The problems are the same. You just owe the money. How you got there may be a little bit different, but how you got there, there's no judgment here. There's no judgment on why you owe the money or anything else. Let's just find the solution that's right for you, give you the peace of mind, knowing that we just stepped into your boots to deal with the IRS and you don't have to talk to them. How much better is that? Hey, Steve, I just got a text message here asking for the web address for our playbook. So let me give you this: www.irsplaybook.info. Again, www.irsplaybook.info. So you can go right there and discover our IRS playbook we've used for 30 years to get the IRS off your back for good in as little as 3 steps. So again, it's www.irsplaybook.info, or you can just go straight to our website, taxationsolutions.net, and we'll get you over to the playbook as well.
Barry, and please take as long as you, well, we've got, I think, 5 minutes, but tell people what has made Taxation Solutions so successful. And why you're different from other companies.
We don't have enough time. Do we have another hour on the show?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we take care of our clients. I mean, you're going to be hearing from us more than you ever wanted. We're going to keep you up to date on what's going on with the IRS as we're going through this process. People always look at us and say, wow, I didn't realize that we would hire a company that communicates more than we could ever imagine. And that's what we do. We take the stress off of you so you can go back to living your life. A lot of times the the wife will put on the husband, hey, solve this. And I'll be honest, us guys sometimes aren't really good at making that phone call. But sometimes you just gotta man up and make the phone call and suck it up, buttercup, and pass it off to somebody that can actually do it and deal with this, and you can have the comfort and be able to go back and tell your wife that I've got taxation solutions on my side to help. We're not going to sell you the pipe dream, as I call it. You can call XYZ tax relief or whatever one you want out there, and they start selling you and offering compromise. You can settle your tax debts for pennies on the dollar, which I hate, or a very low sum. What we're going to do in our free consultation is kind of talk to you, walk you through it, figure out what we think you can qualify for. And then we'll talk about whether that's the right road for you right at the moment. And then we go through our steps of doing a complete tax analysis and then decide with you what is the absolute best path to solving the tax problem. And you may have a letter that says final notice of intent to levy. It's time to act. It's time to make that phone call at 877-996-6477. Hey, lawn guys are out back. They're blowing us away, or they're blowing the IRS right out of the water or out of the grass. Hey, that was perfect timing, wasn't it? It's always something. Yes. But, you give us a call here. We're going to go through the free consultation. We're going to talk you through it. We're going to talk about your problem, how you got there, what we can possibly do as a solution. And then once we finish that tax analysis that I was saying, we may come back and go, hey, yeah, you can qualify for an offering compromise, but that isn't the right way. What the right way is a partial pay installment agreement. It gets rid of the same amount of debt or maybe even less debt. And you don't have a 5-year holding period that you've got to stay 100% in compliance on. You just got to pay this amount for this period of time. There are a lot of different options and a lot of different tools and a lot of things in our arsenal that we use to beat the IRS and save you, our client, because that's what the end of the day is protecting you, your assets, your family, and go from there. Maybe there's things we need to modify in your financials. We work with you on that to modify. So, we've taken people where they could actually afford to pay the IRS in the IRS eyes, redesigned a few things, then went back to the IRS and said, no, they cannot afford it because they don't have the wherewithal and the ability to pay. That's the difference between us and any other tax relief, tax resolution company out there. But it starts at going to taxationsolutions.net. Again, taxationsolutions.net. And our phone number for that free consultation is 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Now I'm going to steal your thunder, Steve.
Well, before you do it, tell us what day, which is Monday, Ari, when your show runs.
It's Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Go to taxtalk4u.com. You can follow us there. Follow us on Facebook. Hey, better yet, we have some great shows with Ask the Experts that are always up on YouTube, iHeart, Spotify, you name it. Go back and watch some of these episodes if you need information. And, Steve-O and Ask the Experts does a lot of other programs that are out there, none better than the ones that he does with me, and Taxation Solutions. But there's a lot of other information that he gives out about other experts that is really, really good. So jump in and watch Ask the Experts. Don't miss our episodes here with Ask the Experts. Go back and see all the other ones on the podcast. And then, of course, check out my Tax Talk for You. Go to taxtalk4u.com. You can find us again on iHeart, Spotify, all the major podcast sites. Sorry to steal your thunder, but we've got to keep you guys going.
I love you, bro. You're the best. Barry, thank you so much. Barry's going to be back with us twice next month for more shows. Thank you, Barry. Have a wonderful week. God bless.
Thank you, Steve-O. God bless, and God bless everybody, and God bless the United States, man, the greatest country.
Absolutely. I love you, man. That's Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. That's it for us today. Thank you, Rebel, for all your great work you always do producing the show. We'll be back with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.